2 times, tapping in and holler at y'all again 1 time. Right, so check it, right? Scrolling through YouTube, and I come across a video, and it's a female driver, and I guess she's on a dock somewhere unloading her truck, right? And so in this video, she's talking about how she finds it weird that with all the guys that's around her, nobody is offering to help her unload her truck. They're just standing there, right? And I thought about that old commercial, right? I can do anything, you can do better, right? Y'all remember it was like a Nike commercial or something like that with Michael Jordan, Rebecca Ham. They was like going back and forth with all the different things, right? Pretty much pushing, right, equality in sports, right? But throughout in the world, right, you have women just pushing for equality, period, right? That was a commercial, whatever, right? And they pushing for equality, and they have it, right? For the most part, right? We know, in certain places and certain people, they still hold biases against different groups, right? Whether it be a gender, they race, their religion. We still have people that still be on that bull, right? But for the most part, women have equality, right? And so now, here we are in this trucking industry, right? And we start to see an influx of female drivers, right? And so, with that being said, right? Trucking has always, for the most part, been a male-dominant industry. It's been one of those industries that's been, dominated by men, throughout all the years, right? So now we have all these females, and they out here and they doing their thing, right? Back to the commercial, right? Doing anything a man can do, and sometimes even better, right? So it just kind of threw me off, right? For her to be saying like, oh, it's weird that ain't no men helping me. And it's like, well, we're in a man-dominated industry, and you want to be treated as an equal, right? So to be treated as an equal, right? If I seen a man doing the job, right, and I ain't gonna help him, I ain't gonna help you either, right? And it's not because, of any type of bias. It's just that you chose to do this job, right? Now, sometimes, as a guy, like you might see women, carrying a heavy bag. Hey, man, can I help you with that? Right? You may be walking inside the building, walking outside the building, and you see a female behind you or something. You'll hold the door for her, right? Things of that nature, right? But when it comes to work, when it comes to doing your job, right? Right? Everybody equal, right? Because when you sign up to do a job, right? This is talk like application, right? In most physical jobs, on the application, it says, you have to be able to sit for a certain amount of time, stand for a certain amount of time, right? You might have to lift a certain type of, a certain amount of weight, a certain amount of times, right, throughout the day, right? Can you do this, right? It asks, can you do these without accommodations, right? 9 times out of 10, we check in, yeah, we could do that without accommodations, right? Because if this is what the job requires, like, if I need to be accommodated on an important part of the job, I'm probably not going to get the job, right? So yeah, I can do that, right? So here we are, and it's time to do the work. You got to do the work, right? We all took the job the same, the woman took the job the same as the man took the job, right? So that's one thing, right? Equality, both in ability and qualifications, right? You qualified to do the job, and you're able to do the job. At least you said you was, right? So moving on, right? And then not to mention, right? In these workplaces, workplace harassment is a real thing, right? And most companies don't take it lightly. I'm talking about like in the least bit, right? I heard, I saw, or whatever, right? Like you say you heard something, or you say you saw something, you say you experienced something pertaining to harassment, right? It's gonna be an issue, right? Somebody's gonna have to answer for that, and nine times out of 10, it's gonna be a man that has to answer for whatever those accusations is, right? Because most of the time, like, men don't really, they don't see things a certain way, or they don't really trip off things, a certain way, right? So, speaking of which, like recently, right? We had a meeting at work, right? And, they brought up, this harassment thing, right? And they say, hey, if you see a female driver, having a problem maybe with her landing gear, trying to get her landing gear up, or doing whatever the job is, right? Don't insist on helping her, right? If you see her getting ready to do her job, don't voluntarily help her, right? And the reason being is because if she finds it to be inappropriate, right? Or she feels some type of way, right? Let's just say, like, she hop out, she getting ready to drop her trailer, and she, and before she can get out her truck, right, you done already hopped out, went up over there and start putting her landing gear down, right? That can be considered harassment, right? If you at a dock and she got to unload her truck, right, and you just see as a female, you go over there, you start unloading her truck, right? You don't even give her a chance to do her job. That could be considered harassment, right? If you're asking her, hey, you want me to help you with that? She's like, oh, no, I'm good. I got it. You sure? I can take care of that for you. That could be considered harassment. And now somebody got to answer for it, right? So, it's not even in the best interest of a man to help a woman do their job, especially if they're like in the same job, right? Even more so if he in a higher position, like he shouldn't, you know what I mean? But even if they're in the same, they got the same job duties, right? It's not in his best interest to give you a hand, right? Because you might not have a problem with it. You might be okay with it, right? But it could be somebody nearby, ain't got nothing to do with the situation, and they see it and find something wrong with it, right? It could be somebody nearby, ain't got nothing to do with the situation. They hear it and find something wrong with it, right? Now the guy's in trouble, right? Because he was trying to help out the female, right? So, it's really not in the guy's best interest, right? And even if you get past that, right? Let's just say, it's the workplace, and you got some people, they get in the workplace relationships, right? They get real familiar with each other, all that type of stuff, right? It's not in the best interest of the man to engage in those relationships, because 9 times out of 10, right, is his job at risk, right? Because for the most part, it's rare that a female will get called in for some type of harassment of some sort, right, against another coworker that's a man, right? That's just the way it is, right? Unless she holds a higher position than him, right? Then they'll look at that like an abuse of power. But like, if y'all on the level, you know what I'm saying? If y'all on the level, on the same level, right? It's risky for the man to be in a relationship or have some type of dealings with a female that he works with. If he's in a higher position, it's even super risky, right? It only gets risky for the woman is if she's in a higher position than a man. That's the only time it get risky, right? So, You know, so if you're a female out there and, you know, you're in these workplaces and, you know, whatever your job is, it requires some type of physical work, right? You should never look for a man to step in and do your job for you that you volunteer to do, right? And when I say volunteer, it's because, you know, when you applied, it's like you rose your hand to say, I want that job and I'll do that job, right? So you never want somebody to step in, whether it be male or female, to step in to do your job for you, right? Because that's what you chose to do, right? And then two, especially if you're a female in a male dominant industry, right? You definitely don't want to look like you can't hold your own, right? So you don't want to be asking for too much help or allowing people to just do your job for you, right? Because you want to earn your keep. You know what I'm saying? You want to earn your keep to say, man, I belong here. You know what I mean? So when you see me coming, no, I mean business. You know what I'm saying? And that's just how you got to go about your stuff. You know what I'm saying? And then two, right? And then three, like, don't think it's weird when a man don't help you, right? Don't think it's weird. Understand, this harassment thing in the workplace ain't something new. And usually it's at the downfall of the man, right? So sometimes, I know not often, but sometimes men do use their brain. You know what I'm saying? Like, we do think a little bit sometimes and be like, I kind of want to, right? Because for most of us, it's natural to go help a woman, especially when it comes to something physical, right? It's just natural, right? I don't know where it come from, right? Maybe throughout the times, maybe how things was way back in the day, and it's just in our genetics, whatever, right? It's natural, right? But sometimes we just think like, yeah, I don't really know how that's gonna go. I don't know if that's gonna work out in my favor, even though I just want to help. That's all I want to do. I just want to help, right? And it can just go bad for them. And if you didn't see that a few times, you know what I mean? You just like, yeah, I got it. You know what I'm saying? Do your thing. You know what I mean? And that's really how some dudes be thinking. So don't be thinking it's weird if they don't help you, man, because, you know, that's almost like one of them, like a damned if you do, damned if you don't, right? If I help you, it's potential you could not like my help or not welcome my help, and then I get reported, right? So it's all bad for me there, right? But then if I don't help, but you want my help, or whatever the case may be, and I don't help, now I'm a weirdo, right? Damned if you do, damned if you don't, man. You know what I'm saying? But I'll tell you one thing, right? Being a weirdo ain't gonna cost me my job. You know what I'm saying? But helping you might. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, what the hell, man? You know what I'm saying? Do your thing. You know what I mean? So I'm gonna say, do your thing, man. So look, man, take it for what it is. Share, like, subscribe. Y'all be safe out there.